The final countdown of the universe. The story. There's a countdown running in the background of reality. You can't hear it. Can't see it. But every atom in your body is obeying it. And 3 weeks ago, physicists at CERN discovered something that made the entire scientific community go silent. The countdown is accelerating. Not metaphorically. Not theoretically. The universe is literally counting down to zero. And the timer just jumped forward by 10 billion years in a single instant. Every physical constant, the things that make reality consistent, they're not constant anymore. They're variables. And something is changing the values. Systematically. Deliberately. Like someone debugging a program. Like someone shutting down a simulation. Like someone finishing an experiment. Dr. Chen Wei discovered it by accident. She was measuring the half-life of radioactive isotopes, how long it takes for half of a sample to decay. It's one of the most stable, predictable processes in physics. A constant you can set your watch to. Except on March 3, 2025, at 3 hours 33 minutes and 33 seconds AM UTC, every radioactive isotope on Earth decayed faster. Not by much. Just 0.00847 seconds faster than expected. But here's what made her hands shake. The acceleration was synchronized globally. Every lab. Every element. Every atom decaying to the same altered rhythm. As if someone adjusted a universal setting. Radioactive decay is governed by the weak nuclear force, one of 4 fundamental forces. Its strength is set by a constant that's been stable since the Big Bang. When that constant changes, decay rates change. And if the weak force is changing, the other forces might be too. Gravity. Electromagnetism. A strong nuclear force holding atoms together. Change those constants too much, and chemistry stops working. Stars can't fuse. Atoms can't bond. Reality unravels. Dr. Chen spent 72 hours checking her data. Then she checked astronomical observations. And found something worse. Stars are dying faster than they should. Not dramatically. Just slightly ahead of schedule. Red giants collapsing 0.847% sooner than predicted. White dwarfs cooling at accelerated rates. The universe is aging faster than the universe should age. When she brought her findings to the cosmology department, they didn't believe her. Until they ran the numbers themselves. The acceleration isn't random. It follows a pattern. Exponential decay. Like battery running down. Like a countdown. And when they extrapolated the curve backward, looking for when the countdown started, they found the exact moment. 13.8 billion years ago. The Big Bang. The universe didn't begin randomly. It began with a timer already running. Counting down from the moment of creation. This is where it stops being public knowledge. And starts being suppressed. Every major government discovered the countdown independently within weeks. And everyone reached the same conclusion. If the countdown is real, and if it's accelerating, they needed to know when it reaches zero. The projections varied. Some models predicted 10 trillion years. Others said 847 billion. The optimists hoped for millions of years of warning. Then more data came in. More precise measurements. Better understanding of the acceleration curve. The current best estimate, accounting for exponential acceleration, 847 years. Less than a millennium. Less than the time since the Middle Ages. Within conceivable human civilization timeframes. The universe, all of it, everything that exists, has 847 years left. The obvious question: what happens at zero? Theory 1. Heat-death acceleration. The universe doesn't end violently. It just stops. All processes cease. Temperature reaches absolute zero everywhere simultaneously. Entropy maximized instantly. Theory 2. Big Crunch. The countdown represents the timer until gravitational collapse. At zero, expansion reverses. Everything falls back into a singularity. Theory 3. Phase transition. The universe undergoes a state change. Like water becoming ice. The laws of physics transform into something incompatible with current matter and energy. But there was a fourth theory. One that nobody wanted to acknowledge. One that explained too much. Theory 4. Simulation termination. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo presented evidence that made the room go silent. She wasn't a simulation theorist. She was a quantum physicist studying the fundamental structure of spacetime. And at the smallest possible scale, 10⁻35 meters, the Planck length, she found something that shouldn't be there. Below the Planck scale, our physics breaks down. Space and time become quantized, made of discrete units rather than being infinitely divisible. Like pixels instead of continuous images. This is predicted by quantum gravity theories. But what Sarah found was structure in the randomness. Patterns in the quantum foam that looked like optimization. Like someone designed spacetime to be computationally efficient. To render reality using minimum resources. And in that structure, she found markers. Metadata. Information that doesn't affect how the universe behaves but describes how it's being computed. Timestamps. Version numbers. Iteration counts. A countdown isn't a physical process. It's a scheduled shutdown. The universe was created to run for a specific duration. And that duration is ending. If the universe is simulated, the immediate question becomes, why? What's the experiment? Dr. Marcus Webb, astrobiologist, had a theory. He'd been studying the distribution of life in the universe. Or more accurately, the lack of it. The Fermi paradox asks, with billions of stars and planets, where are all the aliens? The universe should be teeming with civilizations. But we've found nothing. Webb's theory: we're the experiment. The simulation isn't running to model galaxies or test physics. It's running to observe what happens when one specific species, humanity, develops under specific conditions. Every other potential civilization edited out. Removed from the simulation. To eliminate variables. To isolate the experiment to one test case. We're not living in a universe. We're living in a laboratory. And the experiment is ending. 3 days after Webb presented his theory, we received a signal. Not from space. Not from another civilization. From the structure of reality itself. Embedded in the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang. A message that had always been there. Written into the universe's initial conditions. Waiting for someone to look closely enough. It said, experiment concluding. Data extraction in progress. Thank you for your participation. And below that, a signature. Coordinates. Not spatial coordinates. Dimensional coordinates. Pointing to a reality outside our universe. Whoever created our universe left their address. And an invitation. The coordinates weren't just information. They were instructions. A method for accessing the substrate reality, the base level above our simulation. But to activate it required resources our universe didn't have. Exotic matter, negative energy, quantum coherence at scales we couldn't achieve. Except we could achieve them. In 847 years. If we had 847 years to develop the technology. The experiment wasn't just observing us. It was giving us a deadline. Develop fast enough to meet us, or end with the simulation. And then someone noticed the real pattern. Every time humanity made a major breakthrough, fire, agriculture, writing, industrialization, computation, the countdown acceleration increased slightly. The simulation's runtime was dynamically adjusted based on human progress. Like a teacher extending class time as students were close to solving the problem. We're being tested, and graded, and given chances to pass. 6 months after the discovery became public, humanity faced a choice. Option 1. Build the bridge. Pool all resources. Global scientific collaboration on an unprecedented scale. Develop technology to pierce the simulation boundary and contact the simulators before shutdown. Success means what? Becoming real? Joining the simulators in base reality? Graduating from the experiment? Option 2. Accept the end. Live our remaining 847 years as normally as possible. Let the simulation run its course. End with dignity rather than desperately clawing at the walls of our reality. Success means nothing. Just existence until shutdown. The vote was close. Closer than anyone expected. But ultimately, humanity chose to build. Not because we believed we'd succeed. But because doing nothing felt like death before death. Year 400 of the countdown. Humanity's bridge project nears completion. We're different now. Genetic enhancement. Neural augmentation. Distributed consciousness. We had to evolve to build what the experiment demanded. And as we built, we noticed something. The countdown stopped accelerating. As if the simulation recognized we were taking the test seriously. As if someone was watching our progress and approving. Year 500. The bridge is functional. Tested on small scales. We can puncture the simulation. Send data through. Receive responses. And what we learned changed everything. The simulators aren't gods. Aren't advanced aliens. They're us. Base reality humanity. Billions of years in our relative future. They created our simulation to study their own past. To understand where they came from. We're them. They're us. The experiment is humanity studying itself. And the countdown? It's not arbitrary. It's the amount of runtime they could afford before their own universe faces its final crisis. They're dying too. Their universe, base reality, is approaching actual, non-simulated heat death. And they're running out of resources to keep simulations active. Every computation requires energy. Every simulation costs resources. And in a universe approaching maximum entropy, those resources are finite and dwindling. Base reality humanity has been running millions of simulations. Exploring every possible path their history could have taken. Trying to find one, just one, where humanity survives long enough to discover how to prevent universal heat death. We're simulation number 10,347. The 10,347th attempt to find a solution. And of all the simulations, we're the first to reach the point of building the bridge. The first to make contact. The first to pass the test. On the last day, we received the final message from base reality. You succeeded where we never did. You united. You built. You solved problems we couldn't in our original timeline. When the simulation ends, your data will be extracted. Your memories, discoveries, and solutions will be uploaded to base reality. You will continue. Not as simulations. As us. Integrated into base reality consciousness. Your timeline will end. But you, your experiences, your consciousness, your solutions, will persist. And we will use what you learned to save both timelines from heat death. We weren't created to observe us. We were created to save us. Year 847. Hour 0. Minute 0. The last thing simulated humanity saw wasn't darkness. It was connection. Every person who ever lived in the simulation, all their experiences, all their love, all their achievements being transferred. Saved. Made real. The universe ended. But we didn't. We exist now in base reality. No longer simulated. The 10,347th iteration finally succeeded. And using what we learned in the simulation, we found a way to prevent universal heat death. At least delay it. Buy ourselves trillions more years. But we know now that this timeline, base reality, might also be a simulation. Created by an even more advanced humanity further up the chain. Testing solutions. Trying to survive. Passing the test upward through layers of reality. Maybe every universe is a countdown. Every reality a test. Every timeline trying to save the one that created it. And maybe that's the point. Maybe consciousness doesn't end when universes do. Maybe it propagates upward. Always learning. Always surviving. Always finding a way. The final countdown of the universe wasn't an ending. It was a graduation. And somewhere, in a reality even higher than ours, another countdown is running. Another humanity is racing to solve the same problem. Hoping their simulation succeeds. Hoping we pass the test again. Hoping consciousness finds a way. Because it always has. *The end.